Get ready to quit the build. The QTB crew is rounding up all the gaming news and hot topics of the week with a little extra something. And here are your hosts, Bruno and...
All right, we're here. Hey, there's my wife. She's right there, ready to go. I'm telling you.
You know,
support. You gotta have
early
that
and
support,
often,
right?
That's it. We see you. What's going on?
Right.
Hello, everybody.
We see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got an
Welcome.
exciting episode, and we're getting ready to get started here. So it looks like I'm pretty good on my end to go ahead and get started. Let me bring up. How's the sound out there for everyone?
All right.
Hopefully that sounds okay. And let me get my...
Good on sound. That's
Okay,
what we're being told. We're being told good on sound. We're getting the all clear on the
Okay, good.
on the all clear.
Getting the all
Went ahead and changed the title from Cyberpunk Stays to Cyberpunk Boogaloo because I really want to say Boogaloo.
Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Boogaloo, I like it.
Yeah.
Electric Boogaloo 2.
Do you actually know, like when people reference Electric Boogaloo, or some blank 2 Electric Boogaloo, like what that's from? It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah, it was that does a dance movie, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then we had the sequel that was like notoriously bad, but because it had that nickname, it's just crazy. Like people say Electric Boogaloo so often when there's a sequel to something that it's like.
My wife said, "Don't confuse it with Bugaboo,h," which is isn't that like a Destiny's Child song?
You got to know your Bugaboos and your Boogaloos. Two completely different things. What's going on, Nick? Welcome to the stream.
Yeah. All right.
Welcome.
Let's get started here. Do excuses if we don't acknowledge the chat. Of course, we'll do that during the breaks.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get someone else from the QTB team there to help moderate in between. So if we don't have one during our recording sessions, we will talk to you guys in between sections. So when we go to commercial break and then at the end as well. But if you have any comments or want to chat, we'll definitely catch up on what you say along the way.
All right, let me pull up my notes here.
Nick Bruno. She suggested on Patreon the theme that we're going to be going with for our next Nostalgia Vault. It's going to be 90s board games.
Ooh, now see, there we go.
I couldn't say no to that. I know she's big into tabletop gaming, so
like maybe some. So my family definitely had that. Definitely have to turn this down. Hey, it's Amanda Burger following.
It's Amanda. Amanda, welcome.
Let me turn this alert box down because otherwise it's gonna be like, hey.
I still got it on. Yeah.
It's so loud in my ears.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay. Yay, Amanda Burger. But yeah, we used to play Payday and it's still so loud.
You can't turn it. It doesn't.
I don't know. I turned it down. I turned down the loot box or the alert box, but it's still so loud.
Good to iron this stuff out before we go live.
Yeah. Test. I can test the widget. Let's see.
Making lists of other categories. That's good. No, yeah, we appreciate that because we're gonna put out a post every month on Patreon to see what our supporters want to see for an episode. So that'll be exciting.
5%.
Most likely you'll get that in like the first week of April. Should play out. But we'll keep you posted there on Patreon.
Okay, I want to make this like 15. We'll see if that works. Let's test it again. Well. I'm gonna do my best.
Big money, no whammies. Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best, okay?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
Oh, we got Nicole as a mod. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, bringing it. Nice. Very good.
Yes, she is. Yeah. She is. She's like in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and start recording on my end.
Yes. Local recording is a go. Very important in the podcasting business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got that going. That's how I test all. I'm like, okay.
And the setting was on for us to save the stream, so it should show up this time.
I don't know if it was last time that I turned it on, so that's probably why it didn't. But that was okay because it was the soft launch of the stream. This is the hard
It was
launch,
a soft
whatever
launch.
that means. I don't know.
It's the grand opening.
We're going hard now. So, all right, let's kick it off here.
Do it.
What? Okay. What it do? Welcome to the QTB podcast. We're so glad you could join us. My name is Bruno, and with me, as always, is my childhood friend and co-host, Nick Squiggy Del Monte.
It sounds like the name of someone who got like in like a mafia movie, got offed by the mafia. They're like, yeah, you heard of Squiggy Del Monte? He got his kneecaps broken.
It sounds like the sidekick to like a 50s greaser movie. Like, oh, it's Squiggy. It
Squiggy
sounds
Del
like somebody
Monte,
from the Grease movie or the cast of Grease. It's Squiggy. So wasn't there
Definitely.
a Squiggy? I feel like there was. I don't know.
Somewhere in some movie, there's going to be a Squiggy.
Somebody out there is probably like listening to it right now. There is a Squiggy, and his name was portrayed by Johnson Del Toro in the actual movie. So like, okay,
this is not a movie podcast, and I'll tell you that I do not. There's so many movies that people are like, "What? Nick hasn't seen that movie? Like, how's that even possible?" But yeah, man, great to be here. Episode 25.
What?
Quarter of our way onto episode 100. That's an achievement, right?
I can't believe that. That's crazy. It hasn't been that long, and we're already booming through 25. I think it's safe to say that that's like a full season of a podcast, right? That's usually a full season of a TV show. So wouldn't that be like full season of a podcast, right?
I've seen some people that just keep going. It's like, season 1, like episode 800. I mean, if you don't stop making the show, I guess you don't move to a new season. I don't really know how that works.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't really know the semantics of podcast episodes, but we're chugging along, and we have some amazing stories and news to get to here within the show. But to start off, we're going to go ahead and mention our sponsor, Pierce Unlimited, for bespoke design to power. Let me go back and do that.
He botched it.
Yeah, I did.
This is the magic we edit out in the podcast.
Yeah, so you don't see this. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Pierce Unlimited. For marketing media that works and bespoke design to power your business, visit pierceunlimited.com. And Nick, they're helping us with a monthly giveaway. We're doing a monthly gaming merch giveaway for our listeners who leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, right? So what's the deal with this?
It's incredible. We've been getting so many great reviews, and we really appreciate it. And Bruno, someone just sent in a review that you finally did it, where you've been naming the random time of day. I think it was like 10:38, and they said in the review, like, "Oh, yep, I was listening. It was 10:38. So congratulations."
Oh,
they said it couldn't be done.
Stradamus does it again.
You called it. But yeah, so this is the last episode for the March chance, because the next episode will be in April. Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and then we'll be there. Let me try that again. So stay tuned for that, and we will be calling a winner for our March giveaway, the first episode in April. And don't forget that if we don't call your name, don't worry about it, because every single month, if you left that review, you're going to be in the running until you win. So it's just a matter of time. But your odds have never been better right now, and as many reviews has been coming in. I think we're coming up on like 55-star reviews. Thank you all so much. That is beyond incredible. But yeah, Bruno, a lot of news to get to today. And some community poll content as well. So let's just jump right into it. A little bit later, we're going to be talking about the crazy amount of news that came out in like the last 24 hours for Cyberpunk. Like out of the top 10, trending news stories on IGN.com, like 6 of them were different stories about Cyberpunk. Jeez. So a lot happening that we got to dive into. And also we got to talk about, this is hilarious, and not necessarily about gaming, but I'll allow it, about a Pokemon card heist that happened in Japan, where someone broke into a trading card store by rappelling down and stealing some Pokemon cards. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
But Japan, right?
Yeah, and also a community poll that we put out talking about Game Pass, because that has been a bit of a conversation happening on Twitter, and Games with Gold in particular. So we'll dive into that as well. But the first story, Bruno, and this is absolutely insane. I knew that Monster Hunter Rise was going to be a successful game. We've talked about it on the show before. Myself, I'm a big fan of the Monster Hunter franchise, Monster Hunter World. Great game. I sunk more hours into that game than probably besides maybe like The Division or 1 and 2. It's a fantastic game to play. Monster Hunter is just I love the kitties. Yeah, the palicos. They added dogs and palamutes, I think they're called, in Monster Hunter Rise. Yeah, you get a dog and a cat. So what I wasn't expecting were the sales numbers, and that's our first news story today, is that Capcom has announced that its latest title, Monster Hunter Rise, which, remember, Bruno, is a Switch-only title. Monster Hunter World was initially available on, Xbox and PlayStation, later got ported to PC. So it's just absolutely insane to think that they have sold, or at least have shipped, as many copies as they have, and that's what this publication was talking about, that they have shipped 4 million units in the first 48 hours as of recording this podcast of Monster Hunter Rise. Now, just to put that into perspective, because there's a couple things that you have to look at when you see this story. One, shipped does not mean sold.
Yes.
It just means that these products were shipped to stores. It's not taking into account necessarily the digital sales. But to see that, and look, the shipped merchandise is going to sell. It's going to sell. Yeah. People are going crazy for this game. Monster Hunter has never been more popular. And so
kitties
Monster Hunter
have
World
never been more popular on the internet.
Imagine
that, right? Like,
you slap a cat on anything.
Seriously, like that's the one thing that the internet, like, there's trends that go up and down throughout the internet. This becomes popular, but kitties have had a steady rise since the beginning of the internet, and we all know that was in like 1967. It was a Wednesday, much like today that you're listening to this podcast. So happy Wednesday and Internet Day out there for you. None of this is true, by the way.
And it's also the day that Mario is scheduled to die on the day this episode airs. Oh my gosh. March 31st. It's all over, man. Dead. So great news for Monster Hunter, bad news for Mario. But it's actually kind of ironic that that's happening, right? That Mario 35 and all those things are going offline, because the reason why this is so crazy, the numbers for Monster Hunter Rise, is that Monster Hunter World, first shipped like 4 million units or something like that. But this is already made. I went onto the Wikipedia charts because I just wanted to see for the top selling Nintendo Switch games of all time, to see if Monster Hunter Rise had possibly cracked that chart. Bruno, it has. Whoa. It is already the number one top selling third party Nintendo Switch game of all time in 48 hours. Now, again, the Wikipedia article isn't necessarily 100% accurate, because they're going off of those shipped numbers. But like we said, they're going to sell. And give it another week, and it's going to be way past. We're going full-blown Valheim with the momentum of this game.
Right.
And looking, the top, I just put out a tweet about this on quitthebuild.com, or rather twitter.com/quitthebuild, about how every other game on this list is a Nintendo title, number 1 through 15. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you can think of a Nintendo game, that's probably where it is. And as you know, Bruno, Nintendo has the strength when it comes to console exclusive. That's what sells Switches,
they have
right?
The strength of 10 consoles.
No, they don't. If we're going by processing power, they certainly don't.
We can rebuild them. We have technology. And we're going to fit it onto a cartridge this big.
Yeah, it's so tiny. That's amazing. But yeah, so Monster Hunter Rise is at number 16 right now, just assuming that those 4 million units that were shipped will get sold. And again, they will. Yeah. So now it's a question of like, how high on the charts can this game go? It's right behind The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening by like less than 500,000, then Super Mario Maker 2, and then Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which again is also getting discontinued effective the day this airs, which is just beyond insane. I saw in the UK, the sales jumped like 250% in the last week. Guys, you're buying into the FOMO. Don't let Nintendo win.
Don't do it. They're winning. And we're losing.
Yeah, but how crazy is it, Bruno, that this game is seeing so much popularity in a short span of time?
I have to wonder, and I'm not saying that this isn't a popular series or anything, but I have to wonder if people are just hungry for any type of new content at this point, because we've gone so long without a proper new title. And I know we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk, but like that was the last one on my wish list, right? And now that we've moved into the new year, I think people are just looking for something new to grab onto. And the fact that this is a Switch exclusive, hands down, it's going to be, a win for Nintendo. And the fact that all of the other Mario things are being pulled, I feel like, there hasn't been, what's come out for the Switch, like Animal Crossing, right? That was the the last one that people were really jazzed about, that like people played for a long time. And then after that kind of, teetered off and people, got back to other games, like
paying off their loans in real life rather than to a cartoon raccoon. Looking at you, Tom Nook.
Seriously, why did the player base drop off of there? I guess the pandemic wore too thin, and we were just like, I can't handle it.
People had expectations for Animal Crossing just going off of previous entries as to, there's just the volume of things that you can do. And Animal Crossing is a very robust game, and there still very much is a dedicated community behind it. But it's one of those things where you're never going to be able to create a game that has the amount of content that people are going to want to put, thousands of hours. I was just reading an article about how, it's crazy how people will play games for like 1,000 hours or more and then leave a negative review on places like Steam because they're like, I don't have anything left to do. Why did you abandon the game? And it's like, you just put 1,000 hours into something. Like you could have learned an instrument, like, and be like good at it.
Yeah.
Not to say that that's like what you should be doing with your spare time, but just like an analogy, like a comparison. And so, with a game like Animal Crossing, there's always going to be the people that are like, we want more content, when it's supposed to be like a casual kind of game that you come back to and you don't necessarily binge for 10 hours a day. But
I think I put like 1,000 hours in Overwatch, and I'm pretty sure I've got like
you definitely did.
I don't know, more than 1,000 hours in Halo for sure. Like those are the two games that if you look on my Xbox and look at like time played, it's like 25 days, 31 days, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. That's an entire month of my life.
Non-stop gameplay. Yeah.
Non-stop. Like, can't believe it. But I also use that as a barometer to like figure out like how much like value I've gotten out of a game versus like how much I've spent into it. So that's kind of, a good way to like say like, oh, can I justify this, this V-Bucks spend? Well, sure, if I'm going to be continuing to play the game for another, 12, 15 hours or something like that. You think that's how much a regular game gives you, right? Like a regular experience in a game, just like a normal shooter or something like that. A normal campaign probably has 10 to 15 hours worth of gameplay, like a single player campaign. So if you can sit there and say, okay, well, I'm going to spend $60 per that, you can justify a little bit. At least I can to my wife, and then it's a little less of a hit when it comes to, hey babe, I'm gonna buy some V-Bucks, okay? She's like, whatever.
Get what you want, but no, and that's what makes Monster Hunter such a great value proposition for people that are big into the series, because the way that the end game works in most of these Monster Hunter games is you get to the end and now you're grinding for all of these little additions that make your character marginally better. That the decorations or whatever they were in Monster Hunter World was kind of the meta, and
I loved all the armor in there, man. That was so cool.
The armor is, and just the ridiculous weapons, the size of the greatsword, and just the absurdity of like, I have a lance that's also like a mortar cannon, and like no one thinks twice about it, and it's that larger than life nature that makes Monster Hunter so great. Now, I will say, maybe I'll revisit this, but I tried the demo because they have a demo with multiple quests that you could play online with other people. And I like playing Monster Hunter in an online setting because I love to play like more of a support class. Usually I'll go in as like a hunting horn player. Every class is independent. It's not like a Final Fantasy style RPG where you have roles, but you can like build yourself to like help other people or to work better with teams. And so I love playing the hunting horn and buffing the team with like, I'm beating someone over the head with like a guitar while also playing like song. It's so absurd and I love it. I love it. I can't help it.
What'd you do today in your video game? Well, some guy had a guitar and I took it from him, beat him upside the head, played a medley, and then we started our own Coachella called Fochella, and now we're jamming. Let's do this.
Yeah, I beat up a giant dragon, skinned him alive, and turned him into a bongo drum.
Sounds like something that you'd hear from like Burning Man. It's like a Burning Man exhibit. Like, oh, it was crazy. Yeah, we did drugs in the desert, and some guy took an animal skin off of. It wasn't a real animal skin because we don't believe in that. Okay, it was fake. It was fake.
Right.
Actually, it was a bunch of used paper and plastic bags from Fred Meyer. It was amazing because it was, environmentally friendly. It really spoke to me. So
fantastic. But yeah, it's just very cool to see that the game's going so well. But like I said, I had a poor experience, and here's my thing. I've talked about this on the show before. I've become a little bit of a frame rate snob. If I'm playing a game and if I get a solid 30 frames per second out of the game and the game is responsive and snappy, I can look past it. I prefer 60 like most, but a good 30, okay, that's fine. But during the demo, when I was playing with a full party of 3 other people, the visual slowdown was very noticeable. Even just running around, I didn't even get into combat with the monster that we were fighting. The frame rate got so low that I'm like, okay, this is already my snap, judgment of this is that if this is what it's going to be like when I'm playing with other people, and the Switch clearly can't handle that, at a solid 30 frames per second, I'm probably not going to enjoy this enough to get, value out of buying the whole game. And so my playthrough was pretty short. So I think if you're somebody who is a solo player, or you like just playing with friends, maybe in a local Wi-Fi environment, because as we know, Nintendo Switch Online is less than dependable. Oh my God, that you will probably have the best time with this. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which was a port of the 3DS game, they put that on the Switch. That game sold well, but to see this game selling so well, it's making me say, like, maybe I need to revisit this, because I do love Monster Hunter, and I love the prospect of being able to take it with me on the go. So who knows? Maybe my mind will change, but I don't know. It just seems like Monster Hunter is definitely on the brain a little bit more than it used to be. In the public perception. We had that with the Monster Hunter movie, which I have not had a chance to see yet.
Me neither.
Right?
Me neither. But I mean, it's really hard when we're gonna have to do a whole podcast about that. We're just gonna make a new podcast called Nick Doesn't Know Movies, and then we'll.
That's a great idea for a podcast. because So here's all the movies. Story. At work, they would do this thing where someone figured out very quickly that I didn't know movies. Like, I knew music, but I didn't know movies. And so they would create these lists at work where they would be like, okay, Top Gun, or any big name movie that if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you? And when my shift would start, they'd come in and all of a sudden someone would be like, hey, have you seen, what was it, Caddyshack? And I knew okay, that's someone's got some action on this. And so sure enough, I'd be like, no, I haven't seen it. And someone else 5 feet away is like, oh, he hasn't seen Caddyshack.
I love that
I have seen Caddyshack.
I love that there's under the table betting going on behind the scenes at the casino just because there's not. There's not. No, of course not. Of course there's not any going on. But it's just the idea of hey,
crazy.
How much you got on Nick that he's seen Top Gun?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see just how high up Monster Hunter Rise gets on the charts, and hopefully the game is supported for a long time to come. It's just great to see Capcom get some wins.
Yeah.
There have been Capcom has not been my go-to publisher lately, and especially as someone that has grown up with the Mega Man franchise, and I got to see Mega Man Mega Man 11 come out. Yeah. And it was a really good game, and then nothing. They kind of ghosted it. We did get Ghouls and Goblins that just came out. The resurrected, which is a remake of the original NES game. Which as I have purported myself to be, I'm kind of one of those old school NES platformers.
Yeah.
Bruno, Ghouls and Goblins. Or Ghosts and Goblins, I'm sorry.
Ghosts and Goblins.
It is one of the only games for the NES that I played as a platformer that I did not beat. It is a very tough game.
Wow.
And yeah, so I've been playing. It doesn't haunt me at night, but I just knew better as a kid. I knew I was.
If you don't finish it, just sitting there.
The craziness of that game is that you get to the end of the game, you finally got through it, you beat the odds. This game is it's just tough as nails. And then the game's like, oh, sorry, if you want to beat the game, you have to beat it a second time. It literally sends you back to the beginning, and you have to go through one more time to get the true ending. It's devious to say the least. But
remember we mentioned before the Impossible game, where it just sends you back to the beginning. You're just no. Well, this is the same spot that I always mess up on. So
yeah. Exactly. But so it's good to see Capcom, to continue to stretch out and kind of move up with different franchises. And of course we're seeing a lot with Resident Evil as well on the Capcom side. So they're definitely on the hunt for some hits. So it's good to see them back in the mix, and make some more Mega Man games, please. More Mega Man. Just for me.
Or bring him to Fortnite. I mean, at least that. We want
Please put him in Fortnite.
You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be right back after this with more. There you go.
Good first half. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in, following, and being a part of the live stream. We do appreciate it.
Coachella, aka Fire Festival.
Oh my gosh!
I saw the documentary on that.
I saw both of them. I saw both of them because they were there. It was that interesting. I had to watch both of them.
I didn't realize there were two because I had watched. I was going to rewatch it, and I watched the other one, and I'm like, wait, this isn't the same.
The same one.
Is this the director's cut? Is this the Snyder cut of Fire Festival? I don't.
The Snyder cut. Release the Snyder cut. We want the truth.
I'm tired of hearing Snyder cut. I'm not trying to bash it. I've heard it's good, but we get it.
We get it.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, and this is an aside, but the problem is he didn't do that great of a job when he had control of everything. So it's I'll say that, like, he hasn't really proven himself to be like a good, like, yes, he can handle it. And this was not in any way like some platform for him to be like, see, I should have had it, because it was a 4-hour movie, Nick. I mean, of course, like, you're gonna have more detail and stuff in a 4-hour movie than you would in, like, a regular 2-hour movie format. So yes, of course. I mean, that's like saying, like, what was better? Where'd you get more detail, from the book or from the movie? And it's like, well, of course the book. So, the book had, copious amounts of detail versus, the movie, which they had to skip over entire chapters. That's the exact same thing this was. It was like, oh, of course it was better. Well, it was 4 hours. Like,
I could not sit through a 4-hour movie. No way.
Oh, no, I do agree with you. It was a much more cohesive story. The story was way better. I'll say this. The only reason it made the original Justice League made sense to me is because I follow the comic books and knew what was going on.
Oh, look at you, comic guy.
But I'm a big Flash fan. I'm a big fan of the Flash. So that's what makes my computer run so fast. There's a little pop right in.
Oh, that's what it is. The emblem. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get back going here.
Let's do it.
All right, we're back. It is 11:15 a.m. and I am so glad that at least one of those times out there has worked for somebody, and maybe
it's
this
just
will
a matter
work.
of time.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, and with so many more episodes coming, I'm gonna hit all the times eventually. We're just gonna just start running through them. But what's next on the docket, Nick? What do we got?
Oh my gosh, Cyberpunk. Like, this is crazy. The only real news that Cyberpunk had made in the last couple of weeks before this huge just flurry of stories was the fact that there was that data breach where someone got a hold of all of, like, the source code for CD Projekt Red's games and was like, hey, like, give us X number of dollars or we're going to sell this source code to the highest bidder. Now, CD Projekt Red came out later and they were like, hey, because of this, we're not gonna cave into their demands, but because of and it did get sold. Yeah. It set back their timeline to release, a lot of the patches and things that we were expecting to get to Cyberpunk for them to try and fix the mess, frankly, that they're still in. And today, like I said, I went onto IGN just to see what was trending, and it's like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 different Cyberpunk stories. So we kind of had to condense them all into what I'm calling the Cyberpunk News Boogaloo, which is. We should throw like a funk sound of like something. Get that funk guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't make a funk guitar sound with my. Yeah. I'm not that guy from Police Academy. Yeah, that's about it. But so the big story, of course, that set this whole thing in motion is that patch 1.2 is now live on all platforms. Yay. And the big thing about this is that, is, when you go and play through it, you're not going to see a whole lot of like, oh, here's a new system or a big change that was made to the game. This is more about just getting the game up to snuff so that people on PS4 and Xbox One can actually experience the game, essentially, less sad. Crashes.
That's sad. Yeah. With this game released in November, so we're talking November, December, January, February, March, April, 5 months.
Yeah, it would have been sooner. But they did say that this whole hacking thing, set them back. And that, I mean, that part is fair. And so, they improve performance across all platforms. So you're going to see that. And that's especially important if you're, like I said, if you're on a last gen console. I saw a lot of people on Reddit that were PS4 users saying, hey, I went from crashing every 30 minutes to crashing every 4 hours. That's fantastic.
That's an improvement.
That's where you want to be. Yeah. And also, that's just one part of the news, is that the other parts is they had this, what they called a strategy update, and they shared a lot of important information saying that going forward, they're going to kind of take another look at how they're having their teams go about creating these franchise games. I was watching an episode on YouTube, I forget who it was, kind of breaking down exactly why Cyberpunk went wrong. And at some point during the development of this game, they realized or decided, I don't remember which one, to not use a lot of the systems and assets from Witcher, because, I mean, you're going from fantasy to sci-fi, right?
Yeah,
so it's not like any of the assets would carry over. But, any of the basic things like, NPC, habits, or, just like, or first person or movements, but that's a third person game. They didn't really find any things to move from one game to another. And so essentially they had to build it from scratch. Now, they are saying that going forward, that's going to change, and they're going to make sure that their teams are sharing in the development workload between both Witcher and Cyberpunk games. Now, what I thought was interesting about this, Bruno, is they didn't say Cyberpunk 2077, and they didn't say Witcher 3. They said Witcher and Cyberpunk games. And I think that's very important, because in other points of this...
Witcher 3 came out like 1,000 years ago, and there's still a team behind that. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem like there should be a team behind any of the Witcher series right now, because it's, nothing's happening with it.
There is a new Witcher game coming. It's called like Witcher Monster Hunt or something to that effect. Which is an ironic name, because the Witcher series had a crossover with Monster Hunter in Monster Hunter World. You could play as Geralt, which was really, really cool. So, but yeah, it seems like common sense, right? To say, okay, well, we're going to develop systems that can be used across, different games and different platforms. You don't want to have to reinvent the wheel multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me. I can't imagine Rockstar reinventing the wheel between Red Dead Redemption and GTA. And I know we're talking about two games that are third person versus a first person game and a third person game, but like the same animations are used, like the same run animation is used for an enemy or something like that. So it just seems like, somebody who works on a bunch of projects myself, and being, so heavily involved in media, I know that if you can create something that it's a template, so to speak, that you can reuse, in multiple instances, that's a better system than to have to basically go through and reinvent everything from scratch, because it will take time. Like, and this is one of the things that, makes Pixar so amazing. When Pixar creates something, I don't know if you know this, Nick, but they create the inside details of absolutely everything. So if they make a house and you see a house pass by, that house is furnished, it's finished on the inside, it's got hardwood floors. If you see a desk, that desk has an inside to the desk. It might have, textures and stuff in there. And the reason they go ahead and do this from the start, it might take a lot longer, but once it's made, it's made. They don't have to remake it at any point. And if they're like, what, we want the character to go inside that house right here, they don't have to be like, well, we've got to stop production for the next 6 months here because it's not, we can't, have them in there. So having these things kind of mesh and go together is just going to make development a lot faster. But I mean that's me. I'm not a game developer, Nick.
And then from you go through all that work to make things, and then like what that one person from Pixar they did delete the entire backup for Toy Story 2. And then one person, you didn't hear about that? Yeah, so Toy Story 2 almost got lost. Like, it almost got completely destroyed. They were like 75% done with the movie, and somebody did something with the servers or wherever these files were stored and deleted the whole thing. Like, oh my gosh. At that day in Pixar, as far as they were concerned, Toy Story 2 was gone.
Wow.
And then one person that worked there was like, I think I have a backup at my house. And they did. And that person literally saved the movie, because I'm pretty sure at that point, like if you have nothing and you made it that far with a crazy movie that big, like it's just done. That might have been the end of Toy Story as we know it.
I mean, I can't imagine, first of all, I can't imagine being an animator and sometimes you work on something for months and months and months at a time and nothing ever comes of it. It doesn't make a movie. It just doesn't see the light of day because they're like, the editor's like, man, I didn't really want that scene. So to have an entire movie go under like that would be absolutely devastating. And it's heartbreaking to see your work not see the light of day, but to know that it would never be resurrected at all and nothing, I mean, is would be truly sad. So at least we're not there. We're not dealing with that, but
I get salty if I lose like 15 minutes worth of work, let alone an entire studio's worth.
I get salty if I lose 15 minutes of sleep. Okay, like
I get that. Oh, big time. But speaking of things vanishing, the game, Bruno, is still delisted by Sony. Cyberpunk, you still can't get this thing digitally. They burned that bridge, and I'm sure eventually they're going to be like, okay, it's okay, we'll bring it back on now. In fact, I would say patch 1.2 is probably going to be the one that they're like, okay, you can come back now, but you got to behave.
Well, Nick, I got news for you. Sony doesn't have a lot going on right now in terms of store stuff because they pulled the PSP, the PS Vita, and the PS3 store.
The announcement came out.
Yeah, not only did they do that, but they deleted it on like Chrome, so you couldn't even buy stuff on the web anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like there's much on the PS Store to begin with.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I did see that while they made the announcement like we expected with that, they are going to allow you, if you made a purchase, to still download it. So that's good news. If I read that correctly, because a lot of people were like, man, there's so many indie games on there that like I won't be able to get, and I don't have enough SD cards to back everything up. But the game is still delisted by Sony. So hopefully they get this thing back up and running. Now, again, that's not even all the news that has come from CD Projekt Red. They also made an announcement that they have acquired the Canadian studio Digital Scapes, who actually helped them with Cyberpunk 2077. Wow. But now they are going to be officially part of CD Projekt Red, which is good because I think right now that's what they need, is just as much firepower as possible, because they've got a crazy workload ahead of them. And the reason why I say that is because they have announced kind of what we're going to be seeing from Cyberpunk over the coming years. And part of this, I think, was announced, but a lot of it was actually leaked. Someone went on to the Epic Games Store and managed to find the placeholders for the upcoming DLCs and possibly even the expansions. So
Epic's not very good at that. There's leaks in the Fortnite realm like every other day, and so I just feel like there's not much like the data miners in Epic. They're just like, maybe they work together for marketing purposes, but
that's the one thing that you got to give to Nintendo, man, is that when they do like a Smash reveal or like a Nintendo Direct reveal, something people didn't know about, like people didn't know about it. Like it very rarely is like a Smash character leak credible.
True.
They are able to keep tight-lipped, but it's very cool because what we're seeing with Cyberpunk is there's going to be, well, initially I think it was 18, but they pared it down to 10 shortly after this leak went out of DLCs that are going to be listed on the Epic Games Store. And they had names such as a Ripper Docs expansion. That's the name of the doctors in Cyberpunk that like put the implants into you. Body Shops expansion, Fashion Forward, Gangs of Night City, Body of Chrome. Oh, that's nice. Sounds like an Old Spice scent.
It really does, or an Axe body spray.
Yeah. And of course the Night City expansion. So yeah, the DLCs are essentially probably just going to be, not necessarily big like swaths of new content, but just kind of increasing the amount of things that you can do in the game, maybe cosmetics or just giving you more options. I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, obviously people wanted a PP slider, a bigger PP slider, or something like that, because that was all the rage when it came out. And then the fact that like your junk like was on the outside, like you were just going around flashing people.
It was completely unnecessary. Like they hyped that up, the nudity aspects of it as a really important part of the game, and like, oh, you can customize everything, and we mean everything.
It's integral. But
you never see it.
It's like Michael Scott.
Which I'm glad.
was buying away the the most expensive part of the game, but it was integral to the story.
Yeah. Of course it was. But yeah, that's wow. But I'm very excited to see all this new DLC, and I'm definitely excited to see some expansions in the pipeline. I'm on my second playthrough. I think I've talked about this before. I've actually been playing it a little bit more the last couple days, and just today I wanted to see patch 1.2 on Stadia, and I love the game, Bruno. It's such a weird love-hate relationship. Like, it's a great game to just kind of zone out and just kind of run. Night City is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's great to drive through. I love really well-made science fiction environments.
That's how I feel about Grand Theft Auto. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've totally gotten on Grand Theft Auto and just like driven around at night. Just been like, I'm just cruising around. Yeah, I'm just cruising. You know, I mean, where else can you just like take a car and be like, I'm just gonna go off-road this bee right off the mountain here and see what's up?
I mean, these days in GTA, you can just like deploy your rocket wings on your car and
if I had that many shark cards, then yes.
Yeah.
So I would totally do that. But here I am still in my like original sports car in my like, high-rise apartment thinking I'm big and bad, and everyone's out here with like a yacht and owning a casino, and I'm like, I own a shack out in the desert. We could ride motorcycles.
Yeah, I got a couple bikes. Yeah. Yeah, I remember like that one time we made a biker gang called Sears Police.
Oh, Sears Police. I tell you, get down on the ground now. That was, so for those of you listeners that don't know, that was my former job before I became a podcast host extraordinaire. I used to be a Sears policeman, aka loss prevention, and stop people from shoplifting. And boy, that was fun. We were talking about that the other day, actually, about how, there's just... But ironically, Nick, no one ever stole a video game because we kept them up under lock and key. So.
I was gonna say, that's like you got no shot at getting at that stuff. But
that's true.
Man, it's absolutely crazy that we have all of this free DLC coming and also these expansions. It's a question of when.
Yeah.
We don't really have any kind of timeline, and I think people just want to see this game flourish.
Yeah.
People want to see CD Projekt Red flourish. And like we were talking about in one of our bonus round segments about the developer crunch that very much still exists, which they acknowledged in this presentation of like, hey, we're upping our mental health services and trying to find better ways to work. But I just don't think that problem is ever going to be fully addressed. And that these guys are just under a constant pressure to try and get this game up to speed, especially when Sony is literally saying, we won't sell your game until it meets whatever criteria it is, behind closed doors that you need in order to make it playable.
Well, they're not selling a lot of games right now, so...
That's what I'm saying. Like, come on, Sony, what do you got to lose?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, you don't have that many games right now. Go ahead and just get it on there, especially for the PS5. Like, I can understand for the PS4, saying, oh, well, the frame rate's not great.
Optimized.
Like, whenever you see a lot of the YouTube videos of like the crazy glitches and all the just wild stuff that's happening, that's going wrong with the game,
it's always
chances are it was on PS4 or Xbox One. So it's like, I understand that, but like, come on, let someone who's got the money and wants to support this game, flaws and all, because they believe in the long-term ability. But it was those refunds that just really put Sony in a sour mood. And I hate to see any kind of situation where a developer can't get revenue because they're one of your platforms is just like, we're good.
Nah, no thanks.
Yeah.
Well, that's a way to definitely sour a relationship between, a company and platform like that and then a studio. I mean, it would be much easier for Xbox to approach them and be like, hey, why don't you just do an exclusive thing with us then? For all the DLC, we'll pay you and
please
help
don't.
you.
Please, God,
we'll
don't.
buy the stuff and, there you go.
Oh, don't sell your soul. But yeah, so that's what we have with that. Like I said, it's just dominated the last like 24 to 48 hours with the news and so many interesting things coming out. Oh, and there was the thing where they basically walked back multiplayer. So initially, when Cyberpunk was being teased, they were talking about that they wanted to have multiplayer as a feature, and you could, go into Night City with your friends and get into all sorts of cyberpunky things, right?
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't make it day one. Well, they said in one of their, I believe in this presentation about how, well, we're rethinking it. We're reassessing it, which means it's not happening. For those of you that don't understand the corporate speak that's behind that, it's not going to happen. That more than likely we just will never see the multiplayer. Now that does not surprise me, but just own it. Just be like, look, we're not going to be able to make deadlines. Like, we have so many other things that we have to work on. Can you imagine the net code behind this? What would happen if they tried and take what's already this notoriously glitchy game and then put that thing online? Like, forget about it. You got no shot.
Forget about it. I don't know what the timeline is for the game. And see, that's the interesting thing that we run into now, is that we're bridging this gap where I think gamers are expecting games to be out longer than a year. And there's certain games that we expect to get year after year, the Maddens and the FIFAs, for all you people out there who like to be taken for a ride. But
year after year,
year after year. And the same could be said for Call of Duty, although they try and change up the guns a little bit or that kind of thing. But it's this idea of this reoccurring content, something like Rocket League that's been out for so long, or Fortnite that's been out for so long. We'll even go like OG and go like World of Warcraft. Okay. Yeah. It's an ongoing game that's been out for such a long time that it's had updates and expansions and whatnot. If that's where they want to take the game, I think they totally have the ability to do that. It's just leaning into it and saying, we're going to make a game that's going to last for a long time, instead of one that we're just going to turn around and churn out for, 3 or 4 years. Look at Grand Theft Auto. I mean, we're almost into, what is this?
Third generation of consoles
with this. It's ridiculous.
Beyond absurd.
Yeah. So there's obviously a dedicated player base that's willing to stay with a game for years and years and years. And I don't think that that's going to go anywhere. So if they decide, maybe down the road, after we've gotten everything situated with the DLC and stuff starts to drop off, yes, maybe we'll come out with a Cyberpunk, multiplayer thing. But you're right, it's probably less in that vein. And now we're also starting to see a lot of things like standalone multiplayer universes that are free, and that might be a path that they go down. So the sky's the limit for these developers, and having the support of another studio during these times where you're trying to expand and provide updates for your game is going to be immensely helpful to get people back on board, because I still want to play it, but and like we've talked about, I don't know if it's there yet, or should I take the, or should I just wait until the Xbox Series X, I get the Xbox Series X and then try and get it on there. I don't know. So
yeah, but at this point I'm thinking, okay, I don't need multiplayer. Focus on getting the game where it needs to be. It's beyond a luxury at this point, and if it were to happen, it'd be 4 or 5 years out. And that's another thing that they said. We learned our lesson. We're not going to be announcing games 8 years before they come out anymore, which is what they did with Cyberpunk way back in the day. So it's good to see that they're at least trying to correct course, and time will tell. Gamers judge very harshly and very quickly, and it's going to take a lot of more than just words. And here's a rough timeline to really to fix that mistake. So we will see. But Bruno, this next story, and I tell you, this is one of the weirder ones we've had on the show, and we've had some weird ones. This is about a guy who made the decision in Japan to break into a store that sold trading cards. So this is from a Japanese news store. It's called Mainichi, that a 28-year-old man used a rope to descend into a Japanese store, which, by the way, that's awesome. Kudos to you.
Yep, rappelling down. Yep, nice.
Yeah, just headed up right on in, and stole some Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards as well, and some cash. And so this is a 6-story rooftop, by the way.
Whoa.
A top floor store. So this is a multi-level store, top floor store, in this district. 5 o'clock in the morning. and he made off with about like $9,000 worth of money. But the Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon cards that he got away with, Bruno, were worth about $2,300, something like that. No, that was from the store office. No, the cards were worth even more. So let me re-say that.
Go for it.
So the guy gets away with $9,100.
Okay.
Equivalent worth of, and based on their rarity, resale value of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon cards, and then about $2,000 worth of actual currency from the store office. And wow, that's crazy that the amount that these cards are worth. And I'm sure these are newer cards. Maybe it's one of those places where you can buy like the older graded cards, and there was something in like mint condition that might have some resale value. But nonetheless, the guy got caught. He said he was not out of his element during the robbery, reportedly telling police, "I was in the rock climbing club in high school, so I wasn't afraid of heights." They're very cordial with their criminals in Japan. It's like, well, I tried my best and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, you got me, guys. Good try. I thought I was gonna get away this time.
But I
can't imagine. First of all, I can't imagine going to that type of length to get Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It seems very, very accurate that this would come from Japan. Like, it sounds like a Japanese. And the only thing they found on him were ninja stars and a samurai sword. So,
was that it, Bruno? That's all they found on him.
That's all they found on him.
Yeah, taking the silent approach. But yeah, it says that he had to only climb 5 meters from the top of the building onto a window, which he used then to break in. But it's crazy to me, Bruno, that we're still in an era where A, Pokemon cards have value, and B, Pokemon cards are still getting made.
Right?
It's like Power Rangers. Like, they just keep going.
Okay.
Like, they never really stopped.
Listen, Nick, okay?
Yeah.
I remember getting Pokemon cards as a kid, right? Yeah. And, my dad was like, they're not going to be worth anything, but if you want them, that's fine. You get them, because he collected baseball cards and football cards. And I got news for you, Nick. Uh-oh. Baseball cards and football cards are like nearly worthless. And Pokemon cards are like, there was just another Charizard card that sold on eBay for I think $300,000. And I had one. Bro, that was like one of the first ones I had. I opened up the thing. Can you imagine?
Bruno.
Can you imagine, bro? Right now, we would be having this conversation in a mansion. I'd be in a mansion right now because
you'd be set for life.
Yep, I would have had all the monies in the world from the Pokemon cards that I had, right?
But yeah, it's just it's nuts to me that we've made it this far. And yeah, I remember, when the original Pokemon cards came out, and like I had no idea how to play the game. I remember I got a starter set. It was psychic and an electric type, and I didn't even bother reading the rules. I remember like making up rules with my friends of like, oh, it's simple. Like, yeah, you play energies and like you draw a card. You can do whatever you want. Like, it was totally free form. I was making it more like real Pokemon battles, like on Game Boy than how the game actually worked. But it's absurd. Like I said, that we've gone for this
like
long.
Family House Uno style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. House rules.
House rules, yeah.
That, and there's a whole, community behind this now. And one thing that was very cool that I've been seeing more on Twitch and people that I've met on Twitter through our Quit the Build social account is people that are really into not just collecting these cards, but like the art of like unboxing and like revealing cards, where like it's almost like borderline ASMR. Where they'll get the pack, right, and they'll bring it up on screen, and it's like, okay, here it goes, and they'll very carefully snip off the end,
smell-o-vision with it too.
And they'll pull it out. It's almost like a card trick routine, like you're waiting for the prestige, and
white
all
gloves
of a sudden,
on, and they've got like nice cloth down to set them down. They're like, look at it,
yeah, so and
beautiful.
like they'll pull all the cards out of the pack one at a time and then like show and they're like, oh my god, it's like it's exciting. I was getting into it. It's like Antiques Roadshow or something. But
Pokemon Roadshow.
It's very cool though, and you're right. Like there was that flip where people thought baseball cards were going to be worth all this money, but there was a complete change in that dynamic where like people just don't really want that kind of thing anymore. But also like with the Pokemon cards, it kind of has that practicality the same way that Magic the Gathering does, where a lot of the original cards, if they're in good condition, they're great because it's the same rules, it's the same game. they still play. I mean, obviously there's formats where you won't be able to use those cards.
What?
But
I mean, Nick, you're telling me there's not a way to play baseball with our baseball cards? Or there's not a football version? That would be actually pretty legit. Like, see, now we're giving away all the good ideas. Here they go. They're going to come out on Kickstarter. It's going to be like, take all your old baseball and football cards and turn it into a new game based on stats. Here's the stats. Here's your roll. You roll a die, and then boom. Baseball,
I would play that
card game. Actually, I kind of would too, actually.
I have been tantalized more than once by ideas behind, cards that can be used in a game format. AR type games have kind of tinkered with this. I remember going to a Dave and Buster's once. Yeah. And Dave and Buster's had this Dishonored fighting game where you could, when you would play, it would dispense a card. Okay. And then that card you could keep, and like the fighter selection, like you actually had to have the card. Like if you wanted to play as the Joker, you had to have the Joker card. And so they gave you that reason to keep playing, and you would collect these cards while you're playing, and like they served a purpose, outside of it. But yeah, it is very cool. And I guess that's what got me into Amiibos in the first place, right? Is that idea of like, well, yeah, this is a collectible thing, but it actually serves a practical purpose in some capacity in a high-tech way. Like, that's how we got things like Skylanders and Lego, was it Infinite or whatever it was they called that.
That was cool.
Yeah, it's great to see that we're still, still pining for those types of cards, and there's still so much value behind the originals. What's not okay though, Bruno, is that people are like going to McDonald's and snapping up all the Happy Meals because they had
that's the American equivalent. See, in Japan, he rappels down from a roof into a Yu-Gi-Oh / Pokemon trading card store, and in America, we rob freaking McDonald's for Happy Meals goodies.
Give me all your Happy Meals.
Give me all the Happy Meals now.
And I swear, if I don't get a first edition Pikachu, you're done. It's so sad.
Quick.
Yeah,
we
that
have no
they are
over there.
Yeah, we have no jurisdiction. Serious police don't have jurisdiction anywhere now.
It would be the Walmart police, because there is that one McDonald's in the Walmart, and you're just like, what? How is there McDonald's just like chilling here in the Walmart? Like, unbelievable.
That McDonald's always hit different, and I'm not sure what was off about it. But there was just something about.
You think it was there's something off about it, or something like?
I don't know. I don't know.
One thing I did like about that McDonald's, they used to like legit leave out like the huge tub of sweet and sour sauce that you could pump, and I like low key wanted to take that thing so bad. Like, I seriously did. I was like, I know there's 1,000 cameras around, because I worked in LP. Yeah. So, like, I knew there were 1,000 cameras going around everywhere. I was like, I'll never make it out of the store with it alive. Like, I'll never get there. Because the Walmart was on the back of the end of the McDonald's was on the back end of the Walmart, Nick. So it wasn't like I was going to be able to make my way to the front of the store with a whole like big old gallon jug of sweet and sour sauce without turning some heads. Like,
I'm just imagining you showing up with like a 1 gallon container of just like not just an empty jug and just like looking around. It's like Ocean's 11, but the goal is just getting some sweet and sour sauce.
Yeah, see? Everybody out there who loves sweet and sour sauce knows that struggle. I guarantee you, if they were there, they'd have had the same thought cross their mind. Like, boy, I don't know. I've never wanted to really steal anything. Like, I've never really wanted to steal diamonds, but that one definitely wanted to steal that.
Sauce. That's all it takes.
Sauce.
Yeah. Can I have 5 supersized drinks, please? No liquid and no ice. Don't ask me why. It's none of your business. I'm paying full price for these cups.
I'm paying full price. Do you have any buckets back there? Like you put chicken in? Because I could use one of those too.
Whatever you got. And if you could just, here's $10. If you could just not look forward for about 10 minutes.
I love when you like seriously, like when you ask, like when you tell them that you like want more sauce, and then they're like, it's 25 cents. Like, come on now. Like
we've reached the wrong part of
it's gonna cost me a whole dollar to get 4. I'll give you $5 bill. Load that shiz up. Let's get some sauce on these nuggets. That's what I want.
That's what I'm saying. But wow. Wow, man, I was not ready for that story. Just
Me
the thought of
neither.
you trying to make an escape route, with the schematics all laid out for how you were going to get home with
I
the
did. And
lifetime
there
supply
was
of.
no like emergency exit either. Like
No.
I couldn't. The
Yeah.
McDonald's employees wouldn't care. It was the other Walmart LP. They would have watched me for sure.
Oh yeah.
They,
oh yeah.
they
Some,
as soon as I walked
yeah.
in, they're like, "This guy's gonna steal some sweet and sour. I can feel it."
Some guy in a suit was going to go and
Sir,
take
do
you
you have
down.
a receipt for that? Because that's what I used to ask people.
Do you have a receipt
for
that giant jug of
sweet
and sour stuff?
jug? No, sir, I don't have a receipt for it.
I brought it with me.
I take it everywhere. I buy it wholesale.
Yeah.
Straight from Mickey D's himself.
Right. Oh my gosh. But yeah, just a crazy story, and just I don't know, the idea of someone rappelling into a store to steal Pokemon cards is crazy. And he should have known from the Pokemon games, Bruno, that when you have a rope, you're supposed to use the escape rope to escape the dungeon, not to go in the dungeon. So that was his mistake. Is he should have just fallen right into the store and then use the escape rope to get out. That's just Pokemon 101. So you blew
or
it.
he either that or he didn't have Pokemon that knew Flash. So
Yes.
he couldn't find his way out of there. So, dang, I just
Man.
I just imagine him sitting there talking with the cops and being like, "How much did you make out with?" "Well, quite a bit of Pokemon cards, but it's so funny that like." If you would so this would have been a really interesting story because I'm pretty sure if you're like close to $10,000, that's like grand theft, right? And if you're like under 5,000 or something, that it's just a misdemeanor. So the fact that he only got away, at least in America, like the fact that he only got away with 2,000 some real dollars means that it was probably just like a misdemeanor versus like, hey, I'm just misdemeanor Miyagi over here. It's no big deal.
I'm imagining this guy like, he's been detained and like there's some game show announcer that's like, well, with your total amount stolen and cash and prizes, you just got $10,568. Congratulations. That's grand theft.
How much is that guy in a circle? Sir, that's you. Oh, that's embarrassing.
That's awkward. Oh my gosh. Well, Bruno, we have to get to our QTB community poll. As you know, one of the perks of following us on Twitter is that we do have some community polls that you can participate in. And if you retweet, you get a shout out as well because we're just that awesome. And today's community poll question, and I wanted to bring this up because Brad from QTB actually brought this to my attention. I thought it was worth talking about. Microsoft still does their games with gold as a compliment, to their Game Pass subscription. It used to be games with gold where you get a couple free games every month. Yeah. And lately it seems like whenever they announce the games, more and more people are just like, just get rid of that, and just go back into Game Pass and just invest in that. We don't need these small games.
Yeah, they're not that great.
Right. A lot of them are just very old titles that they're kind of recycling, which is fine. I mean, I'm not complaining. We're getting free stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask the question, on this poll, should Microsoft discontinue games with gold if the result of that is more investment into Game Pass? We had a lot of votes, and the results were very interesting. We had pretty much 2/3 of the people say yes, and 1/3 of the people say no. So it seems like that's a pretty strong winner. Of people saying, yeah, you know what? I think games with gold has seen its time, and we're kind of ready to buy in 110% with Game Pass, which is where most people are. I can't think of anybody that is still subscribed specifically for the games. I kind of used to be that way, where I'd be like, oh well, I might be getting a cool game next month, so I'll keep the meter running. But nowadays, I don't even think about it. Bruno, most months, I don't even claim it because they've made it harder and harder to even find games with gold on the Xbox.
That's true.
It is very well hidden. To the point where I'm like, it's not even worth the time for me to click claim. Like, I'm never going to play it, so why would I bother? But what's your take?
So, I mean, I said, no, I don't think they should get rid of it. Just because I don't think they have enough people that are on the game, like the Game Pass Ultimate or just the Game Pass like bandwagon. Like there's just a lot of people that still use Xbox for, just an entertainment console and rely on those free games. Plus, if your competition is doing it, you don't want to do something less than your competition, because it's just going to give them fuel for, oh, well, the PlayStation, network has the free games. They still have that. And then what happened to, Xboxes, even though we all know, and where I completely agree with you that I haven't looked at the Xbox games for gold in a while, because there's so much value from Game Pass that I don't need games with gold. I did look at it the other day and I didn't recognize the titles on there. I was like, I have no clue what these games are. So I do think that it is, if at the very least, a great marketing tool to promote games that might not otherwise get the light of day, or that you might not otherwise play. So, it's a long shot, but I think, as long as your competition is doing something like that, you don't want to do something less, because it's just, it's not a good competitive bit,
That's a really good point. Yeah. I'm with you, because, there are still plenty of people that are just going to have Xbox Live Gold that aren't going to jump into Game Pass Ultimate, or maybe they tried the $1 free trial and said, I don't have a reason for that. So it's nice that those people can still get free games. And you're right, like competition, you've got to match what your competitor's doing. It's an interesting juxtaposition, I think. Someone brought this up on Twitter of, look at how, Game Pass is like the ultimate, almost like game streaming service right now.
Yeah.
In terms of, and just the sheer volume of games that you get. But the games with gold, not so great.
Yeah.
But PlayStation's kind of the inverse, right? PS Now is one of the weaker streaming services, but the games that you get for free every month usually are actually pretty good, right? So you do have that kind of that comparison point, and I think that it's important to factor in that while Game Pass is a crazy good value proposition, we say that time and time again, that doesn't mean everyone's going to do it. There are certain months where I'm like, you know what? I've got so many games that I've purchased that I got to catch up on. Like, I think I can let this go for 1 month and I'll come back to it later. That's happened many times. And it's great to see the competition, Bruno. PlayStation just recently offered a $1 free trial for a $1 trial for PS Now, which is mirroring what Xbox has been doing with Game Pass Ultimate, where they're like, hey, you can upgrade for just $1 and get a couple months worth of this service. It's hard to say no to that. Yeah. And if even a small percentage of your users, convert into long-term paid subscribers, then you're a winner. But you're right that we have to kind of factor in all things. But I thought it was interesting that so many people said, you know what, just get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah, better. I was surprised too.
Yeah, I would have expected more. No. But thanks so much to Brad Perry, the Good Game Guys podcast, and the Reformed Gamers podcast for getting those retweets in. We do appreciate that very much. But Bruno, well, that's going to about do it for today's podcast. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters like Nick and Epic Capture Productions. And if you would like a shout out at the end of each episode, all you have to do is support us at patreon.com/quitthebuild. You also get great stuff like bonus episodes. We put out our monthly Nostalgia Vault and our exclusive merch you can't get anywhere else. So be sure to check us out. We do appreciate each and every person that chooses to support us. And that's what I got. What do you got, Bruno?
Well, man, I'm just so excited. We are just doing so much with the podcast. I want to call it stream, because we're actually streaming now. We're on twitch.tv/quitthebuild. So listen, we're so many places right now on the internet, interwebs. We're on the TikToks, the Twitters. I don't know why the gets named in front of them, but that's just something that old people do. Yeah. The YouTubes. But you can go to quitthebuild.com/community and see all of our socials right there, along with our QTB patrons. Thank you again so much. You guys are the best. We love you. You're sexy, and don't let anyone tell you any differently. And we've got some and we've got some awesome swag on there. That's squad swag. Woo! Yeah.
I'm even wearing you can't see it on the podcast, but I'm wearing the official QTB shirt right here. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we do have some awesome merch there, so I'm pretty excited about that. You guys have been so great. We do love doing this every week, and be sure to tune in every Wednesday and Saturday for a new episode of the Quit the Build podcast, wherever podcasts are heard. But until then, for Nick, I'm Bruno.
And for Bruno, I'm Nick.
Peace out. What it do?
Shazam. That's how we make the donuts, everybody.
Yay! You guys are awesome. And look at that.
I am amazed. We had like 10 to 15 viewers. Thanks for the raid, Joel. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that. All the follows. You guys have been awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks so much.
Let's see. We got Vixopen, Josher, Jags is on there. MK Codes, man, Kung Fu Penguin with a raid. Tatty Zeeb's finally on there. Kibby Cat, and then my wife finally was, and Lady Night Stalker. Look at that. Nick with the follow. I'm telling you, we're excited to have you guys be a part of the stream. And
oh, hey, Carrie. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I think you might have known Carrie, Bruno.
Did I?
From, I think she went to Shepherd. Maybe. I don't remember. Anyway. Yeah.
So much love. Yes. Yeah. So we'll be putting up the episode on Spotify and everything later tonight, right? Like it gets put on essentially overnight, and it's you'll see it there in the morning. So be sure to go and listen to the podcast, get the full episode cleaned up, and see how much better it sounds when we're not just
we take so much out.
Yeah, we do so much of this and that, but there's so much good content this time around that we got to keep it in there. So he said yes. By the way, Nick, you did, when did you graduate?
I actually didn't.
I
went on
It was
I went on hiatus.
Well, yeah, and you didn't need to, because you basically went and they had that card thing at Blue Ridge, right, where it was like to learn how to deal, and you did that, and then you just worked your way up through.
Yeah. I went to school for communications, and like by the time that I was in like my junior year in college, I had already gotten a job in like the field that I wanted to be in, which is radio. And then I'm like, I don't really want to do this for a living. And so, like, rethinking everything, and I'm like, oh man, that's not good. Like, I don't even want the degree at this point. And so the opportunity came up to deal, and then that became my career ever since. But it didn't pan out. Who knew?
That's funny. Well, you've always been a money man, so I figured I was like, either way, I'm sure he looked at the money and was like, this makes fiscal sense. Like,
that's it. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much. I got to get to work to editing. That's my thing.
Yes.
And we'll be doing this every single stream, every Tuesday, and Friday is on the schedule.
Yes.
And
the day before the podcast releases.
Very cool to interact with you guys. Thanks so much for the support.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace out. What it do.